Welcome to our deep dive into A Short History of Nearly Everything by Bill Bryson.
Oh, yeah.
We're going to be exploring the universe,
Wow.
from the tiniest atoms to the vast expanse of space,
Okay.
and really try to unravel this story of how we got here.
Right.
This book really is a treasure trove of scientific discoveries told with Bryson's signature wit and insight.
Hmm.
And I think by the end of this deep dive, you're going to walk away with a whole new perspective on the world around us.
Yeah, I think so.
Maybe even the universe.
The universe, I like it.
So Bryson, he really has a knack for making even the most complex scientific ideas accessible and entertaining.
He does. He's a very good writer.
And the scope of this book is incredible. It truly is a journey through nearly everything.
It is. It's very ambitious.
So why don't we jump right in?
Okay.
One of the first things that Bryson really drives home is this mind-blowing concept that our bodies are made up of trillions upon trillions of atoms,
Right.
constantly working in perfect harmony to keep us alive.
It's amazing, isn't it? To think that these tiny particles, the very same ones that stars and galaxies are made up of,
Yeah.
somehow come together in this incredibly intricate way to form us.
Right.
And yet the very existence of atoms is a mystery in itself.
It really is.
There's no fundamental reason why the universe should be filled with these building blocks of matter.
It makes you wonder why, doesn't it?
Definitely.
And speaking of wonder, Bryson talks about how his own fascination with science was sparked as a child by a simple diagram of the Earth's interior.
Yeah, he talks about how textbooks make science seem so dull.
Right.
But in reality, it's anything but.
It's so true.
Good science writing can make these complex ideas come alive.
Yeah,
Show us the true beauty and excitement of scientific discovery.
for sure. And Bryson takes us on some pretty exciting journeys in this book.
Oh, yeah.
He talks about the accidental discovery of cosmic background radiation by Penzias and Wilson.
Oh, yeah, that's a good one.
They were working with this massive antenna
Right.
and kept picking up this persistent hiss,
A hiss.
but they had no idea what it was.
They had no clue.
It's remarkable how they stumbled upon something so profound without even really understanding it at first.
I know, right?
Yeah.
And they actually read about the significance of their discovery in the New York Times.
Can you imagine?
I can't.
This hiss, it turned out to be the faint echo of the Big Bang,
Wow.
the very event that birthed our universe.
Amazing.
That's incredible. Talk about being in the right place at the right time, huh?
Really is.
So from this accidental discovery, Bryson dives into this mind-blowing concept of the Big Bang
Yeah.
and how the universe arose from, well, nothing.
From nothing. Yeah.
It's wild.
It's
He
amazing.
talks about how everything had to be perfectly balanced,
Right.
almost as if the universe was fine-tuned for our existence.
Fine tune. Yeah.
This concept of fine-tuning is just fascinating to me.
Yeah. He discusses how
Yeah.
if gravity were just a tiny bit stronger or weaker, or if the universe had expanded at a slightly different rate,
Right.
galaxies, stars, planets might never have formed.
Right. We wouldn't be here.
Then we wouldn't be here to talk about it.
Exactly.
It really makes you wonder about the possibility of other universes with different laws of physics, maybe even other forms of life that we can't even imagine.
Right. It's incredible to think about
It is.
this vast unknown universe with endless possibilities.
Yeah.
Speaking of the vastness of space, Bryson kind of shifts gears a little bit
Okay.
to our own solar system, but not before addressing some common misconceptions.
Okay.
He points out that most illustrations we see of the solar system are actually misleading
Okay.
because they don't accurately represent the immense distances between planets.
Yeah, it's true. We often see these illustrations where the planets are all neatly lined up,
Right.
relatively close to each other.
Yeah.
But in reality, space is mostly empty.
It's a lot of empty space.
A lot of empty space.
And those distances are, they're mind-boggling.
They are, yeah. If you were to shrink the sun down to the size of a basketball, the Earth would be a tiny speck of dust about 100 feet away. And Pluto would be almost a mile away.
That really puts things into perspective.
It does.
And this brings us to the story of Pluto itself.
So little Pluto.
Bryson talks about how it was discovered by Clyde Tombaugh,
Yeah.
this amateur astronomer who spent countless hours painstakingly comparing photographs of the night sky.
Wow.
And for a long time, Pluto was considered the ninth planet. But it's a bit more complicated than that now, isn't it?
It is. Pluto's story is fascinating because it highlights how our understanding of the solar system is constantly evolving.
Right.
Initially, Pluto was thought to be much larger than it actually is, even
Wow.
larger than our own moon.
Oh.
But as we gathered more data, we realized that Pluto is actually quite small,
Okay.
even smaller than our own moon,
Yeah.
and that it shares its orbit with a host of other objects in the Kuiper Belt.
So it's kind of a cosmic demotion for Pluto, from a planet to a dwarf planet.
It's a worse planet, yeah.
But even in its new classification, it remains an intriguing world. Speaking of worlds, Bryson then kind of takes us on this journey through the history of geology
Okay.
and how our understanding of the Earth's dynamic past has unfolded over time.
This is where we delve into deep time,
Deep time,
a concept that was revolutionary when it was first proposed.
I can imagine.
Early geologists like James Hutton started to recognize that the Earth's features, mountains, valleys, canyons,
Right.
were not formed in sudden catastrophic events,
Yeah.
but rather through these slow, gradual processes operating over millions, even billions of years.
That's incredible.
It's mind-blowing.
It's amazing how they were able to piece together this history.
Right. Especially without the tools and technology that we have today.
Right. They had to rely on careful observation, meticulous field work.
A lot of deductive reasoning.
Yeah. And their work really laid the foundation for our modern understanding of plate tectonics and the forces that shape our planet.
Exactly.
And then there's Charles Lyell, who built upon Hutton's work and emphasized this idea of uniformitarianism,
Uniformitarianism, yeah.
which basically says that the same geological processes that are happening today
Right.
were also happening in the past.
Lyell's work was incredibly influential,
Yeah.
especially for Charles Darwin, whose theory of evolution really relies heavily on this understanding of deep time.
It's fascinating to see how all these different scientific disciplines are so interconnected.
It really is.
And speaking of fossils, Bryson dives into the world of paleontology,
Yeah.
taking us through some of the most remarkable fossil discoveries, including, of course, dinosaurs.
Of course.
He talks about Marianne,
A Marianning, yeah.
this incredible fossil hunter.
Yeah, she was unearthing amazing specimens like ichthyosaurs and plesiosaurs
Wow.
long before anyone really knew what dinosaurs were.
That's incredible. And to think she was essentially self-taught
I know, isn't that amazing?
and made these groundbreaking discoveries despite facing
Yeah,
significant challenges as a woman in science during that time.
it was a different time.
Right. Her story is a reminder that scientific progress often comes from unexpected places,
Absolutely.
and that we should never underestimate the power of individual passion and dedication.
For sure.
And then there's this, the dinosaur wars.
The dinosaur wars.
This intense rivalry between two paleontologists.
Oh, yeah, Cope and Marsh.
Cope and Marsh,
Those guys.
who were constantly trying to one-up each other.
They were at each other's throats.
It's funny to think about.
It is, but their rivalry, while sometimes petty and destructive,
Yeah.
actually drove a period of incredible discovery.
So it wasn't all bad.
No, they unearthed dozens of new dinosaur species, racing to outdo each other in the process.
Wow.
So it's a reminder that science, even at its highest levels,
Right.
is still driven by human ambition and competition.
Yeah, and all this time, while these paleontologists were uncovering the remains of ancient giants, there was this underlying question. Just how old is the Earth?
That's a big one.
Bryson walks us through how scientists struggled to accurately determine the age of our planet. Early estimates based on things like the rate of cooling of the Earth or the salinity of the oceans.
Ingenious, but ultimately flawed.
Yeah. And then there was Lord Kelvin,
Lord Kelvin.
this brilliant physicist,
Yeah.
who, using the best available data at the time, estimated the Earth to be much younger than it actually is.
Oh, really?
He based his calculations on the assumption that the Earth was initially molten and had been cooling down ever since.
Oh, I see.
But something wasn't quite right, was it?
No, what Kelvin didn't account for was radioactivity,
Ah,
which wasn't discovered until later.
right.
Radioactivity actually generates heat within the Earth,
Okay.
which throws off those earlier calculations.
Right.
It wasn't until the discovery of radioactivity and the development of radiometric dating techniques that we were finally able to get a more accurate picture of the Earth's true age.
Yeah, which we now know to be about 4.5 billion years old.
4.5 billion, wow.
So finally, a more accurate age for our planet. And this brings us to the world of atoms, the fundamental building blocks of everything around us.
Right, Adam.
Atoms, and that's where we'll pick up next time.
Sounds good.
All right, so we're diving headfirst into this atomic realm now.
Right.
Bryson, He takes us way back to the early 1800s,
Okay.
to John Dalton, this English chemist, who first proposed this idea that all matter is made up of these tiny indivisible particles called atoms.
Atoms, right?
It's incredible to think that this concept,
Well,
which is so fundamental to our understanding of chemistry today, was once just a theory.
it really highlights the power of scientific thinking.
It does.
Dalton, he couldn't even see atoms.
Right.
Nobody could back then.
No.
But he was able to deduce their existence based on his observations of how elements combine in chemical reactions.
Right. So his atomic theory really revolutionized the field of chemistry.
Absolutely.
Paved the way for countless discoveries to come.
It did.
And then came Dmitri Mendeleev,
Mendeleev.
the creator of the periodic table.
Ah, the periodic table.
Which I remember as this pretty colorful chart hanging on the wall in high school chemistry class.
Yeah.
But it's much more than just a chart, isn't it?
It is. Mendeleev didn't just organize the known elements. He actually predicted the existence and properties of elements that hadn't even been discovered yet.
Wow.
It was a predictive tool, a testament to the power of organizing knowledge and looking for patterns.
That's pretty mind-blowing when you think about it.
It is.
He basically predicted the future of chemistry.
He did, in a way.
But our journey into the atom doesn't stop there.
Okay.
Bryson introduces us to Ernest Rutherford,
Rutherford.
this physicist whose experiments revealed even more about the nature of these tiny particles.
So getting even smaller.
Yeah, his famous gold foil experiment really shook things up, didn't it?
It did. Rutherford was firing these tiny alpha particles at a thin sheet of gold foil.
Okay.
And based on the prevailing model of the atom at the time, what they called the plum pudding model,
Right.
he expected these particles to pass straight through. Instead, some of the particles were deflected at sharp angles,
Oh, wow.
and a few even bounced straight back.
What?
It was like firing a cannonball at a piece of tissue paper and having it ricochet back at you.
That must have been a pretty shocking discovery.
It was. It completely upended the existing model of the atom.
Yeah, so what did this tell Rutherford about the atom?
Well, it showed that the atom wasn't a solid, evenly distributed sphere of matter, as was previously thought.
Right.
Instead, it was mostly empty space with a tiny, incredibly dense, positively charged nucleus at the center,
Okay.
surrounded by these negatively charged electrons.
So the atom wasn't this simple solid sphere.
Yep.
It was more like a miniature solar system
That's right.
with electrons orbiting a central nucleus.
Exactly.
That must have been a pretty exciting time in physics.
It was, but as we delved deeper into the atom,
Yeah.
things got even more complex, even more strange.
Okay.
We enter the quantum world, the realm of atoms and subatomic particles, where things don't behave according to the rules of classical physics.
So it's like we entered a whole new set of rules.
Exactly, a whole new set of rules.
What are some of the key differences between the quantum world and the world we experience?
Well, in the quantum world,
Yeah.
things aren't so clear-cut.
Okay.
Particles can act like waves, and waves can act like particles.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's this concept called wave-particle duality.
Yep.
And then there's Heisenberg's uncertainty principle,
Right.
which states that we can never know both the position and momentum of a particle with perfect accuracy.
Oh, okay.
The more precisely we know one, the less we know about the other.
That's wild.
It's like trying to pin down a shadow.
Yeah.
The moment you think you've grasped it, it slips away.
So it sounds like the quantum world is full of these paradoxes and uncertainties.
It is.
How did scientists even begin to wrap their heads around these concepts?
Well, it required a complete shift in thinking,
Yeah.
willingness to abandon old assumptions and embrace the strange and counterintuitive. It's a testament to the flexibility and adaptability of the human mind.
Absolutely. And speaking of mind-bending concepts,
Oh, yeah.
Bryson tackles one of the biggest scientific revolutions of all time,
Okay.
Einstein's theory of relativity.
Relativity, yeah.
I remember hearing about this in school,
Yeah.
but it always seems so abstract, so difficult to grasp.
Yeah. It can be.
Does Bryson manage to make it understandable?
He does a remarkable job. He avoids getting bogged down in complex equations.
Yeah.
And instead, he focuses on the core ideas,
Okay.
using thought experiments and analogies to illustrate the mind-bending implications of relativity.
Okay.
For example, he explains how time is not absolute, but relative to the observer's frame of reference. Imagine two clocks, one on Earth and one on a spaceship traveling at near the speed of light.
Okay.
From the perspective of someone on Earth, the clock on the spaceship would appear to be ticking slower.
So time isn't this constant, unchanging thing that we perceive it to be.
That's right.
It's flexible, it's relative.
It is. It's a pretty radical idea.
It is. I remember hearing about this anecdote that there was a book on relativity so complex
Yeah,
that only a handful of people in the world could understand it.
I've heard that too.
Is there any truth to that?
Well, it's probably an exaggeration, but
When
it does capture the sense that relativity was, and still is, a revolutionary theory that challenges our intuitive understanding of the universe.
Yeah.
Bryson does a great job of demystifying it,
Yeah.
showing that while the math might be complex, the underlying concepts are surprisingly elegant and intuitive
Yeah.
once you grasp them.
So Einstein's work really turned our understanding of the universe on its head.
It did, yeah.
It's amazing to think about the ripple effects of his ideas,
It really is.
how they've influenced everything from our understanding of gravity
Mm-hmm.
to the development of GPS technology.
That's right. From the vastness of the cosmos, Bryson brings us back down to Earth.
Okay.
Focusing on its dynamic history, he talks about Alfred Wegener's theory of continental drift. The idea that the continents were once all joined together in a supercontinent called Pangaea,
Right.
it's a pretty familiar concept now,
It is.
but it wasn't always so widely accepted, was it?
No, it wasn't. Wegener, he faced a lot of resistance from the scientific community when he first proposed his theory.
He did.
He didn't have a mechanism to explain how the continents could actually move.
Right.
His ideas were seen as radical and outlandish.
They were.
But Wegener, he was persistent.
He was.
He presented compelling evidence, like the matching coastlines of continents,
Right.
the distribution of fossils across different land masses,
Yeah.
and the similarities in rock formations on opposite sides of oceans.
So he had the evidence,
Yeah.
but the scientific community wasn't quite ready to accept his theory.
What changed their minds?
Well, it wasn't until much later, with the development of plate tectonics,
Okay.
that Wegener's ideas were fully embraced.
So plate tectonics really provided that missing piece of the puzzle.
It did.
It explains how the Earth's crust is broken up into these massive plates
Right?
that are constantly moving and interacting,
Mm-hmm.
driven by convection currents in the mantle.
That's right.
So this movement explains not only continental drift,
Right.
but also earthquakes, volcanoes, the formation of mountains.
It ties it all together.
So Wegener was right all along.
He was.
It's interesting how scientific ideas can be dismissed at first, but then later become widely accepted as new evidence emerges.
That's the beauty of science. It's a process.
It is. It's constantly evolving.
Always changing.
And speaking of our planet, Bryson highlights that there's still so much we don't know about Earth's interior.
Oh, yeah.
It's like this vast, hidden realm beneath our feet.
It is. A lot of mysteries down there.
He talks about the Yellowstone supervolcano.
The Yellowstone,
This
yeah.
massive volcanic system lurking beneath Yellowstone National Park.
It's kind of a terrifying thought.
Isn't it? This potential super eruption just sitting there waiting to happen.
Yeah, the Yellowstone caldera, the massive depression formed by a previous super eruption,
Yeah.
is so large that you can't even see it from the ground.
Really?
It's only visible from space.
Wow, that really puts its size into perspective.
It does.
And to think that was just one eruption,
Yeah.
it makes you wonder about the impact these supervolcanoes have had on the planet throughout history, shaping landscapes, maybe even influencing climate.
They've certainly played a significant role, and Bryson reminds us that we're still learning about these powerful geological forces and how they interact with the Earth's systems.
So it's a fascinating area of ongoing research.
Absolutely.
From the depths of the Earth, Bryson takes us to the oceans.
The oceans, okay.
This vast and mysterious realm that covers over 70% of our planet's surface.
Most of our planet is covered in water.
And he starts by highlighting one of the most essential substances for life,
Okay.
water.
Water.
It's so familiar to us, yet it has some truly unique properties that make it crucial for life as we know it.
Right. Water is often called the universal solvent.
The universal solvent.
Yeah, because it can dissolve so many different substances.
Oh,
This property is essential for life because it allows for the transport of nutrients and waste products within cells and throughout organisms.
right.
And water's high heat capacity helps regulate temperature, making it possible for life to exist in a wide range of environments.
That's amazing how these seemingly simple properties of water
Right.
have such profound implications for life.
Exactly. And Bryson discusses how these properties arise from the unique structure of the water molecule.
Okay.
With its two hydrogen atoms bonded to an oxygen atom at a specific angle.
Right.
This seemingly simple arrangement gives rise to hydrogen bonding,
Right.
which is responsible for many of water's unusual properties.
So even the most familiar substances can hold hidden complexities
Absolutely.
when you look closely enough.
When you look closely enough.
Bryson also talks about the challenges of exploring the deep ocean.
Yeah, the deep ocean.
This vast, dark, pressurized world that's teeming with life.
Right.
Much of which is still unknown to science.
We've only explored a tiny fraction of it.
He shares the story of William Beebe and Otis Barton.
Beebe and Barton.
These pioneers who ventured into the abyss in their tiny, spherical submersible called the bathysphere.
The bathysphere, wow.
Their dives were incredibly risky.
They were, considering the technology available at the time.
What? The pressure at those depths is immense.
Yeah, and even a small leak could have been catastrophic.
I can imagine.
But Beebe and Barton, they were driven by this thirst for knowledge and a desire to explore this uncharted realm.
So they were true pioneers, risking their lives to expand our understanding of the ocean depths.
Absolutely.
What were some of their most significant discoveries?
Well, they were among the first to witness the bioluminescence of deep-sea organisms.
Echoluminescence.
These creatures have evolved to produce their own light in this world of perpetual darkness.
It's like a living fireworks display in the depths of the ocean.
It is. It's breathtaking.
Wow. And Beebe and Barton's descriptions of these bioluminescent creatures really captured the imagination of the public.
They did.
Inspired generations of marine biologists.
For sure.
It's amazing to think about the diversity of life that exists in the oceans.
It is. From the microscopic plankton to the giant squid, from the colorful coral reefs to the strange and wonderful creatures of the deep.
And Bryson, he emphasizes that we've only scratched the surface of this incredible biodiversity.
That's right. New species are being discovered all the time.
Really?
Yeah, and we're still learning about the complex interactions and ecosystems that exist in this vast underwater world.
And with the increasing threats of pollution, overfishing, and climate change,
Right.
it's more important than ever to understand and protect these fragile ecosystems.
Absolutely. The oceans are vital to the health of our planet.
Yeah?
We need to be good stewards of this incredible resource.
From the vastness of the oceans, Bryson delves into the mystery of life itself.
The mystery of life. Okay.
Exploring the complexities of living organisms and how they function at the molecular level.
So we're going even smaller now.
It's a big jump from the depths of the ocean to the microscopic world of cells and molecules. But Bryson manages to connect these seemingly disparate realms in a way that makes sense.
He does a great job of highlighting the interconnectedness of all things.
Yeah.
From the smallest atoms to the largest galaxies, and how life itself is a testament to the incredible organizing power of the universe.
It really is quite awe-inspiring when you think about it.
It is.
All this complexity, all this life,
Yeah.
arising from these simple building blocks of matter.
And Bryson, he doesn't shy away from the big questions.
Like, how did life even begin?
Yeah, how did those first simple organisms arise from non-living matter?
Right.
He explores various theories,
Okay.
including the RNA world hypothesis,
RNA world hypothesis.
which suggests that RNA, not DNA, may have been the primary genetic material in early life.
Interesting.
RNA has a simpler structure than DNA, and it can act as both a carrier of genetic information and as an enzyme.
So it's possible that RNA was the precursor to DNA,
If possible.
the molecule that now carries the genetic code for all living things.
It's a fascinating idea.
It is. And what about those extremophiles?
Extreme.
Those organisms that thrive in these extreme environments, like
Right.
hot springs, deep sea vents,
Right.
even radioactive waste.
Yeah, the discovery of extremophiles really expanded our understanding of where life can exist.
Yeah.
It challenged our assumptions about the limits of life.
Right.
It raised intriguing possibilities about the potential for life on other planets, perhaps in environments that we previously thought were too harsh.
So it seems like everywhere we look, life finds a way to adapt and survive.
It does.
And Bryson, he doesn't shy away from exploring some of the more unsettling aspects of this diversity,
Okay.
like viruses.
Viruses?
They're these strange entities that blur the line between living and non-living.
They do, yeah. They're essentially packets of genetic material that can't replicate on their own. They need to hijack the machinery of living cells to
And
reproduce.
they can be incredibly destructive, too,
They can.
as we've seen with pandemics like the 1918 flu, which killed millions of people worldwide.
That's right. Viruses are a constant reminder of the delicate balance between life and death,
Yeah.
and how even the smallest organisms can have a profound impact on the world.
Right. Bryson discusses how the 1918 flu pandemic was particularly devastating because it targeted young, healthy adults,
Right.
unlike most flu strains, which typically affect the very young and the very old.
It was unusual in that way.
It's a reminder that we're still vulnerable to these microscopic invaders,
We are.
and that understanding how they spread and evolve is crucial for protecting public health.
Absolutely.
This leads us to one of the most significant concepts in biology: evolution.
Evolution, yeah.
The grand theory that explains the diversity of life on Earth.
Exactly. Bryson delves into the history of this groundbreaking theory, focusing on the work of Charles Darwin. Darwin's theory of evolution by natural selection really revolutionized our understanding of how life on Earth has changed over millions of years.
It's a concept that's often misunderstood or misrepresented,
It is.
but at its core, it's a surprisingly simple and elegant idea.
Yeah, Darwin observed that within any population of organisms, there is variation. Some individuals are better suited to their environment than others, and they are more likely to survive and reproduce, passing on their advantageous traits to their offspring.
So over time, these small changes accumulate, leading to the evolution of new species.
That's right. It's a constant process.
It's ongoing.
And Bryson reminds us that evolution is not something that happened in the distant past.
Right.
It's happening all around us all the time.
And his ideas were initially met with resistance.
They were, much like Wegener's theory of continental drift.
Right. But the evidence for evolution is overwhelming.
It is, from the fossil record to the similarities in DNA sequences across different species.
And Bryson doesn't just focus on the grand sweep of evolution. He also delves into the nitty-gritty details of genetics, the science of heredity.
Right. He talks about Gregor Mendel,
Mendel.
the Austrian monk who was considered the father of genetics.
I remember learning about him in school.
Yeah, Mendel's experiments with pea plants
Right.
revealed the basic principles of heredity.
Right, how traits are passed down from parents to offspring.
Exactly. His work laid the foundation for our modern understanding of genes and how they influence everything from our physical characteristics to our susceptibility to diseases.
It's amazing how Mendel's meticulous experiments with pea plants, conducted in a monastery garden, really revolutionized our understanding of life at its most fundamental level.
It is. It's another example of how scientific breakthroughs can come from unexpected places.
And Bryson, he goes on to explore the inner workings of the cell.
The cell.
This
Yeah.
incredible microcosm of life that contains all the machinery necessary for growth, reproduction, and the myriad functions that keep organisms alive.
Right. The cell is like a bustling metropolis.
A bustling metropolis.
Yeah, with different organelles performing specialized functions like power plants generating energy, factories producing proteins,
Right.
transportation systems moving molecules around.
And at the heart of it all is DNA.
DNA, the molecule that carries the genetic code, the blueprint for life itself.
And Bryson talks about the Human Genome Project.
The Human Genome Project.
This ambitious effort to map out the entire human genetic code.
It was a monumental undertaking.
It was.
Involving scientists from around the world.
And it yielded incredible insights into our own biology and evolution.
Absolutely.
It's amazing how we can now read the book of life,
I know, it's amazing.
decoding the instructions that make us who we are.
What were some of the most surprising discoveries of the Human Genome Project?
Well, one surprising finding was that humans have far fewer genes than scientists initially expected.
Oh, really?
It turns out that we have roughly the same number of genes as a fruit fly.
A fruit? Wow.
This suggests that complexity arises not just from the number of genes, but also from how those genes are regulated and interact with each other.
So it's not just about the raw number of genes.
Right.
It's about the intricate network of interactions
Yes.
and how these genes are turned on and off at different times and in different cells.
And another surprising finding
Okay.
was the amount of genetic material that we share with other organisms.
Really?
It turns out that we share a surprisingly large percentage of our DNA with creatures as diverse as chimpanzees, mice,
Wow.
even yeast.
East, huh?
This highlights the deep interconnectedness of life on Earth,
It does.
how we all share a common ancestor,
Right.
and how we are all part of the same grand evolutionary story.
It's a reminder that we are not separate from nature, but rather a part of it woven into the fabric of life on Earth.
Exactly. And from our shared genetic heritage, Bryson takes us on a journey through human evolution,
Human evolution.
tracing our lineage back millions of years to our earliest ancestors.
So going way back in time.
This is where we delve into the fascinating world of paleoanthropology,
Paleoanthropology.
the study of human origins.
The study of where we came from.
It's a field filled with intrigue, discovery,
Yeah.
and sometimes even controversy,
There's always controversy.
as scientists piece together the fragmented fossil record
Right.
to reconstruct the story of our evolutionary past.
It's a fascinating puzzle.
Bryson, he highlights some of the key milestones in human evolution, like the discovery of Java man, one of the first fossils to provide evidence of an extinct human species. Java man, now known as Homo erectus,
Homo erectus.
was a remarkable find,
It was.
demonstrating that our ancestors had already begun to migrate out of Africa and spread across the globe millions of years ago.
So we've been globetrotters for a long time.
It's amazing to think about these early humans venturing into new territories,
I know.
adapting to different environments,
It's amazing how adaptable we are.
and ultimately shaping the course of human history.
And Bryson discusses the out of Africa theory,
The out of Africa theory.
which is the prevailing view of how modern humans evolved and populated the world. The theory suggests that Homo sapiens arose in Africa
Right.
and then migrated out, eventually replacing other hominid species like Neanderthals and Denisovans.
So we're all descendants of those early humans who ventured out of Africa,
That's right.
carrying within us the legacy of their journeys and adaptations.
And genetic studies have provided compelling evidence for this theory,
Really?
tracing our ancestry back to Africa
Wow.
and revealing the intricate patterns of human migration and interbreeding throughout history.
We really can use genetics to unravel the tapestry of our shared past,
We can. It's amazing.
connecting us to our ancestors
Mm-hmm.
and revealing the deep interconnectedness of humanity.
And Bryson reminds us that this journey is ongoing,
Right.
that we are still evolving both biologically and culturally.
It's a reminder that we are not static beings, but rather dynamic, ever-changing products of our history and our environment.
Exactly. And from the grand sweep of human evolution, Bryson takes us on a tour of Earth's climate history, exploring the cyclical nature of ice ages and how they've shaped the planet, influenced the course of life.
It's fascinating to think about how these massive climate shifts have played a role in shaping the world we know today, carving out landscapes, driving migrations, even influencing the evolution of species.
And Bryson discusses the Younger Dryas event,
The Younger Dryas event, okay.
the sudden cold snap that occurred toward the end of the last ice age,
Okay,
reminding us that climate change can happen abruptly and have dramatic consequences.
right.
The Younger Dryas event lasted for about 1,000 years and caused widespread environmental changes, disrupted ecosystems, and impacted human societies.
It's a reminder that our planet's climate is a complex and dynamic system,
It is.
and that even small changes can have significant ripple effects.
Absolutely. And it highlights the importance of understanding past climate changes
Yeah.
to better predict and prepare for future ones.
Right, especially in the context of human-induced climate change.
Yeah.
Exactly.
It's a sobering thought,
It is.
but also a reminder that we have the ability to study and understand these complex systems
I do.
and to make informed decisions about how to mitigate the impacts of climate change.
Absolutely. Knowledge is power.
Yeah.
And by understanding Earth's climate history,
Yeah.
we can better prepare for the challenges ahead.
From the grand sweep of Earth's climate history, Bryson shifts focus to the incredible journey of life. From those first simple, single-celled organisms to the complex and diverse ecosystems we see today.
Right. A story that spans billions of years
It does.
and encompasses an incredible array of life forms.
From the tiniest microbes to the largest whales.
Right.
From the lush rainforests to the arid deserts.
It's remarkable.
It is. He talks about the Cambrian explosion.
The Cambrian explosion, yeah.
This remarkable period in Earth history when there was a sudden burst of evolutionary innovation.
It's like life suddenly decided to get really creative.
What happened during the Cambrian explosion that led to this sudden surge in diversity? That's a question that has puzzled scientists for decades.
Yeah.
There are many theories, but it seems that a confluence of factors may have played a role,
Okay.
including changes in ocean chemistry,
Okay.
the evolution of new developmental genes,
Right?
perhaps even increase in oxygen levels.
Whatever the cause.
Yeah.
The Cambrian explosion really marks a pivotal moment in the history of life.
It does.
A time when the basic body plans for most of the major animal groups we know today first emerged.
So it's like the blueprint for much of the animal kingdom
Right.
was laid out during this relatively short period of time.
That's incredible. It's mind-blowing to think about all those bizarre and wonderful creatures that evolved during that time.
It is.
Bryson discusses the challenges of understanding this explosion of life, how scientists are still piecing together the clues from the fossil record.
Right, like detectives trying to solve a prehistoric mystery.
It's a fascinating puzzle, with each new fossil discovery providing another piece. And Bryson doesn't just focus on the familiar creatures of the Cambrian.
No.
He also introduces us to the Ediacaran biota,
The Ediacaran biota.
these strange and enigmatic organisms that existed before the Cambrian explosion.
Right, pushing back the timeline of visible life on Earth even further.
So there was life before the Cambrian,
There was.
even more ancient and perhaps even stranger.
Yeah, what were these Ediacaran organisms like?
They were unlike anything alive today.
Really?
Some were shaped like discs,
Okay.
others like fronds, and still others like quilted air mattresses.
Quilted air mattresses.
They were soft-bodied and had no hard parts, like shells or skeletons,
Interesting.
which makes their fossilization even more remarkable.
It does.
Scientists are still debating how these enigmatic creatures fit into the tree of life.
They are a mystery.
They may represent a completely extinct lineage,
Okay.
or they may be the distant ancestors of some of the animal groups we know today.
Fascinating.
It's like looking into a window to a lost world, a time when life on Earth was experimenting with different forms and possibilities.
And from the strange and wonderful creatures of the Ediacaran and Cambrian, Bryson takes us through this vast expanse of geological time, highlighting the rise and fall of species, the evolution of ecosystems,
Right.
and this ongoing dance between life and the environment.
He discusses the major mass extinction events that have punctuated Earth's history,
Yes, extinction events, yeah.
wiping out a significant portion of life on the planet each time.
That's right.
These events, like the Permian-Triassic extinction,
Right.
which killed off over 90% of marine species,
Wow.
and the Cretaceous-Paleogene extinction,
The one that wiped out the dinosaurs?
which wiped out the dinosaurs, are stark reminders of the fragility of life and the power of geological forces.
It's a sobering thought to realize that even the most successful and dominant creatures can be wiped out by forces beyond their control.
And Bryson reminds us that we are currently living through a sixth mass extinction,
A sixth mass extinction.
driven by human activity.
That's right.
This is a critical point that he raises,
It is.
prompting us to reflect on our own impact on the planet and the responsibility we have to protect the incredible diversity of life that exists here.
It's a call to action.
It is.
A reminder that we are not just passive observers of this grand evolutionary story,
Right.
but active participants, and that our choices will determine the fate of countless species.
It makes it clear that we are not separate from nature,
No,
but rather intricately woven into the fabric of life on Earth.
that's right.
Our actions have consequences,
You do.
and we need to be mindful of our impact on the planet.
We do.
Welcome back to our deep dive into Bill Bryson's A Short History of Nearly Everything.
Oh, yeah.
We've covered a lot of ground,
We have.
from the Big Bang to the intricacies of the human cell.
It's been quite a journey.
And it's really incredible how Bryson manages to tie it all together, you know?
He does. It's not just a collection of facts. It's
Yeah.
a story.
It's a narrative.
A grand narrative of the universe and our place within it.
He has this amazing ability to weave together seemingly disparate scientific disciplines,
He does.
showing how they're all interconnected.
Right. He takes us from physics and astronomy to biology and geology,
Right.
highlighting the common threads that run through it all.
And it's a reminder that science isn't just a bunch of isolated fields.
Right.
It's the tapestry, a unified quest to understand the universe and our place within it.
And he does it with such a sense of humor and wonder.
He does. He doesn't just present the facts.
No, he makes them come alive.
He does.
With engaging stories, personal anecdotes, even a little bit of self-deprecating humor.
Right. And it makes you realize that scientists are people too,
They are.
driven by curiosity, passion, and sometimes, as we saw with the dinosaur wars, even a bit of rivalry.
A little bit of competition never hurts.
One of the things that really stuck with me throughout this book
Okay.
is Bryson's emphasis on the vastness of what we still don't know.
It's true. It's humbling in a way
It is.
to realize that even with all the incredible advances we've made in science, we've only scratched the surface of understanding the universe and even our own planet.
It's easy to get caught up in this idea that science has all the answers.
Right.
But Bryson reminds us that there are still so many mysteries out there.
Oh, yeah.
So much we have yet to discover.
Absolutely.
From the nature of dark matter and dark energy
Right.
to the origins of life itself,
Big questions.
there are still huge gaps in our understanding.
And that's what makes science so exciting.
It does.
It's a never-ending journey of exploration.
It's like we're standing on the edge of an uncharted continent,
I like that analogy.
peering into the mist, knowing that there's so much more to explore, so much more to learn.
And even in the face of these vast unknowns,
Yeah,
Bryson maintains this sense of wonder and optimism.
he does.
He doesn't shy away from the challenges facing humanity,
No.
like climate change, the threat of extinction,
Right.
but he also emphasizes the resilience of life and the power of human ingenuity to find solutions. Throughout history, humans have faced adversity and found ways to overcome it.
Right.
He encourages us to embrace the unknown,
Yeah.
keep asking questions, keep exploring, and never lose sight of the beauty and complexity of the world around us.
So as we wrap up this deep dive,
Okay.
I'm curious, what resonates most with you from Bryson's book?
Well, for me, it's a reminder that we are part of something much bigger than ourselves.
Yeah.
A grand cosmic story that spans billions of years,
Right.
from the birth of stars to the evolution of life on Earth.
It really is a story that fills us with awe and wonder,
It does.
but also with a sense of responsibility.
Right. We are the inheritors of this incredible legacy. And it's up to us to protect it for future generations.
I think that's a really powerful message Bryson makes us realize, that we're not just these isolated individuals living our separate lives.
Right.
We're all connected,
We-
not just to each other, but to the entire universe,
The entire universe.
past, present, and future.
It's a profound thought.
It is, and that connection comes with a responsibility
It does.
to care for our planet, to protect the diversity of life, and to ensure that future generations can experience the same wonder and awe that we feel when we contemplate the vastness and complexity of the universe.
And it's not just about protecting the planet for future generations.
Right.
It's about appreciating the incredible gift of life itself, the intricate web of relationships that sustains us, and the sheer beauty and wonder of the world around us.
Bryson reminds us that we're privileged to be alive at this moment in time,
We are.
to witness the unfolding of this grand cosmic story.
And I think that's a great way to sum up our deep dive into Bill Bryson's A Short History of Nearly Everything.
It is.
It's a book that inspires us to think big,
To appreciate the interconnectedness of all things.
to embrace the unknown with a sense of wonder and curiosity.
If you're looking for a book that will expand your mind and leave you with a newfound appreciation for the world around us,
Definitely check it out.
I highly recommend it.
It's a journey you won't soon forget.
And who knows, it might even spark a lifelong passion for science and exploration.
It might.
And on that note, we'll leave you with a final thought to ponder.
Okay.
If life on Earth is so rare and precious, as Bryson suggests, what does that mean for our responsibility to protect it and ensure its future? Keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep wondering.
Good advice.
Until next time, happy deep diving.